Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for some ECAC Week 4 action between the Edgewood College Eagles and the College of Staten Island. I'm Newbie, that's Knuckles, and we're getting ready for a very compelling matchup because, Knuckles, we had a pretty big patch drop this week.
I mean, it was enormous, and it was really, I think, to be honest, it felt proactive from the dev team to try and address some of like the way that the meta had developed. But I mean, we've had two reworks, which is pretty rare for a single patch.
That's true, yeah. Sombra and Ramat are both getting some reworks. We have been told as well that Sombra looks like she is banned today, so we won't be seeing any Sombra play, which I think is the right choice considering the uh, enormity of changes that have happened to Sombra. Like just like basically everything in her kit was reworked. In a nutshell, the only thing that really happened with Ram was he doesn't damage through shields now. He just does extra damage to them.
Yeah, and that just makes the Ram v Ryan matchup, go more in Ryan's favor. And I think that it is like as a Ryan player, you would love that because you just have to, holding shield just felt useless against Ram. But having more damage against barriers is also, I think, helpful. It helps Ram also against, for example, like, I mean, you should be punching Winston barriers, but other barriers as well, you can also break down, which still gives him some value. So I don't, it is a rework, but it's not the craziest thing. I think it's just reducing how much he can sort of like, blow up the front line.
And through the lens of the Edgewood College Eagles as well, I think some of the buffs that have come through could actually help them. Like we see Celestial Maddie play a lot of BAP. BAP basically has like a laser gun now, like no recoil on that gun. So BAP could be very strong. We have seen that team play some Sojourn as well, and Sojourn I think will be somebody that will be a little bit stronger going into this next little bit.
Yeah, I've actually enjoyed the Sojourn changes. She just feels a little bit more dynamic. Disruptor Shot now adds to your Railgun energy, which I think is a really good change. And Bab is, I mean, I'm really interested to see how Bab's going to end up working out. Just because, I mean, anyone who's played Bab, it is crazy easy to do
Yeah.
damage with him now. But was the reason he wasn't being picked as often before because of his damage? I don't know. So this is, I agree, it's something I'm going to be really interested in seeing.
I like the BAP changes, like, I don't know if it's too strong, like, that'll be remain to be seen, but I do think it makes him, like, less diveable, right? Like,
Yeah.
certain characters wanna jump on BAP, and now BAP will just shoot them in the head a bunch, and, like, the amount of damage BAP can do, like, through their own amplification matrix as well is absolutely massive.
I know it makes me think like welcome back better soldier, because he can just do so much damage. And he's really consistent, and Juno got a nerf as well. And even though Eagles weren't playing a lot of Juno was a really big part of the meta. I don't know how much it's going to actually affect how Juno's played because Juno ended up enabling really kind of like a oh, I'm totally blanking on the word, but like everyone has to basically clump together. um Looks like my internet might have done a skip. But, I think that the Juno changes won't really affect her too much, but I think giving her less healing will maybe make her less of a must pick, which I think was like a really important change.
Yeah, I do like the changes that they made to Juno with those nerfs, because she's still fairly strong. Like she has that speed ring, she has the orbital ray, which is a really strong ultimate. So those are things that she could still lean in. It just makes her a little bit more balanced in respect to the rest of the support roster because she's not just so OP this time around. And I do think that that nerf is going to help the Edgewood College Eagles as well, because like you mentioned, they don't play a lot of Juno, so that nerf isn't really going to, I think, affect them as far as them playing Juno. But if it brings some other teams in line, maybe with more with what Edgewood College Eagles are playing, I think that can only help them. I do want to make a quick shout out to Blizzard as well. What are you doing nerfing Reinhardt? Like it's only 100 shield health or something like that. But like, come on, Reinhardt was in a kind of a rough spot already, so it did baffle me a bit that they went with a Rein nerf. So we will get Knuckles back as soon as we can. So it looks like everyone is stuck with me. Just from my bias, I have played a lot of Reinhardt over the years, so it is something that has bugged me. Seeing those Rein nerfs. I do like the Brig getting nerfed, so their repair pack is in a little bit of a longer cooldown. So that is something that will hopefully make Brig a little bit less strong. Obviously, still really good at playing that bodyguard if you have another squishy support like a Zenyatta or a Anna. Obviously, Zen Brig isn't a huge combo that is used a lot, but it is something that can be worked on. Hanzo gets a buff as well, so they are going to be stronger as they do have a larger HP pool up to, I believe, 250 HP. So we will be jumping into our first map here quickly. We are going to be going to Nepal. So this will be a really fun one to watch, I think. Obviously, same lineup that we have seen in the past for the Edgewood College Eagles. We got Gordo on the tank, M-Star Master, and Melly, as well as Celestia Maddie and Kaiser. So
Ready for
it'll be
battle.
really fun to see what gets shaken up. I think it'll be really interesting. Gordo's going to be starting on the Rhine, so we have been seeing Edgewood College Eagles working with a lot of the Rhine May combination, which can be really strong. Melly also on the Lucio, which seems like a signature pick of theirs. And then to round it out, Celestia Maddie is going to be playing that Baptiste, so we will be seeing a showcase
Three,
of how
two,
strong that hero is.
one.
And Kaiser will
Round
be
one.
starting on the Symmetra. And
Capture
historically, we have seen Kaiser stay on that sim. So not just using it to teleport out of spawn, but going in and then using the teleport to engage. So Gordo and Edgewood College Eagles going around to the left-hand side here to see if they can get up in onto the point. Cammy is playing that Orisa, a strong tank right now in the meta. A lot of people opting for that Orisa pick, and we are still seeing the Brig Juno backline from the College of Staten Island as these two teams are coming together on the point. Bioactive is going to throw out a speed ring to start it off here for Staten Island, but they are staying in off the point. The first cap has come through for the Edgewood College Eagles, so now they are starting to improve this cap percentage and making the College of Staten Island come in onto them. Gordo getting stunned up a little bit here, but is able to walk forward and getting in on the back line. Rip SR goes down as well as Zephyr, so that is a bunch of picks early on here for the Edgewood College Eagles, and they're going to take the first fight. A good job of Edgewood College team making sure that they're able to get in, get on the point with this Ryan, Sim, May. This is where you want to fight with this composition. You want to make the other team come to you, and that's definitely what they've been doing so far. And now it'll be up for the with the College of Staten Island to come back in and see if they can do better this second time around. Engaging once again with the speed ring. Another nice May wall comes out from M-Star Master, and they're able to cut off Bioactive and take down the Juno. Bobik's able to trade one back here as Celestia Maddie falls, but M-Star Master is in, staying on the point here. Has their cooldowns coming back as well. Another great wall. These walls have been getting an absolute phenomenal value from the May, and that's another fight win. There was a flip that came through, so a couple percentage going to the College of Staten Island. But now the Edgewood College Eagles are at 60% and counting. So 2 fights in the books here for the Edgewood College Eagles, and they're looking good so far, and they will have 4 ultimates coming into this fight here. Gordo has that Earth Shatter online. We have seen some big shatters even last week. M-Star Master has a Blizzard as well, so those two could really work out well together as Gordo is just going to hang in on this point as long as he can. Tries to land the charge, isn't able to find anything, forces the deflect from Zephyr into the back line as there is a Turret Surge on the point. Cammy was only able to find an Immortality Field, and now Bioactive is able to find one, getting rid of Celestia Maddie. So Staten Island staying alive into this fight. Gordo is able to find one, getting rid of Phobic. And now with Kaiser falling, overtime is burning away, but Staten Island is going to be able to stabilize and stay in this round.
I only really caught the end of that. Sorry for the technical issues. However, it looks like Eagles managed to get it to 99%. A really great start, and we have the window coming up. That might be a really big game changer. But on the other end, Staten Island do actually have the rally. So we'll see. I mean, honestly, I think Staten Island might take an early fight here, try and get the advantage. However, that's going to be a TP onto point coming out from the Eagles.
The DP outside right now is getting a lot of value of the May Sim. using their abilities well. Now Celestia Maddie has thrown down the ad matrix in onto the point. Overtime burning away as the flip comes through. Gordo's able to find one in on the Zephyr. Cammy has to get back in onto the point. Staten Island has to keep contesting here, and they're walking right into that hammer of Gordo as the Reinhardt is finding multiple picks nobody else can touch. They don't even need the sound barrier from Melly, and that is round one going to the Eagles.
I actually really like that last fight from the Eagles. You know, it seemed like they really caught Staten Island out in no man's land. I think they should have committed to that fight a little bit earlier or just played on point, but instead, I mean, they were in between the point and the choke, and the Eagles really took advantage of that. Immediately dropped the window, able to do too much damage. Blade wasn't going to get any value, and ultimately, first round goes to the Eagles.
Yeah, they looked really strong there, and like I said at the end, they didn't even really need that sound barrier and Celestia Maddie throwing out the ant matrix that basically just zoned Staten Island off the point. They weren't able to get back on with meaningful numbers, and now they're up 1-0 here. And it looks like Staten Island is just sticking to the previous meta comp we've seen now, even with all these changes with that last patch.
You know, it really does remind me of my quick play games. You know, you see the Symmetra, you see the Mei, you bring out the Pharah. So I think, Eagles are just going to want to hold point, manage, try and get a wall off, but otherwise they're more than happy to let Staten Island try and come in. Meanwhile, they're going to be looking for picks coming out from the Pharah, maybe, or a pick coming out from the Tracer. And this looks like it's going to be a gauge coming out from Staten Island, and Gordo already going low.
Gordo taking a lot of damage here early on, but good job for the support line. Able to keep that Reinhardt on their feet. Immortality Guild comes out now, as well as the fight has moved over in onto the objective. MStar Masters able to get one here, as Cammy is the first to succumb to the damage from the Mei. The cap has come through, so Edgewood College Eagles have control, and now that means they're going to want to elongate this fight as long as we can. And Maddie's showing us really what you can do with this map now.
Yeah, they're going to have the window for the next fight, which means they're either going to be able to prolong, the period in which Staten Island are actually going to be able to engage, or they're going to be able to turn a fight. Either way, really interesting to see Staten Island bring this Orisa into this comp, especially when everything else they have is kind of like a little more poke-oriented. At the moment, though, Eagles with the upper hand, and immediately Maddie drops the window.
Yeah, that window doing a great job of just making everybody for Staten Island scatter and run to the hills. They don't want to walk into that extra damage. And now we have the break going very low. Rip SR has to get out as we have ultimates being spent here onto the point. Orbital Ray and Blizzard are coming to heads. Cammy's able to find two. So this fight looking good for Staten Island, as Orisa was able to find multiple picks. So now College of Staten Island has the point and has an advantage in the ult economy.
Yeah, it looks like a little bit of a too long of a trip into Narnia there for Maddie. Ends up getting the immortality out a little bit late. That's a good fight for College of Staten Island. On the other side, though, for Edgewood, the orbital ray was used, and that is by far the most dangerous ult. However, Staten Island now have 4 ults coming into this fight, with Edgewood only having 1. So we're going to see how many ults Edgewood is going to be able to get out of Staten Island for this next fight.
Yeah, this is a bit of a jump push here for Edgewood College, seeing what resources they can siphon off College of Staten Island. You got the Parasurge starting us off here as Cammy's able to drop it down, and it is going to claim the life of Melly. So this looks like it will be a quick fight into the books for College of Staten Island, taking this point up to 40% and beyond. Edgewood College will still have the lead, but just for a little bit longer.
Yeah, Staten Island approaching parity here. And frankly, I mean, those are 2 ults coming out from Staten Island, but, the Terra Surge and the Barrage, not, the ults that are really dangerous. I'm thinking of the Brig ult and even the Pulse Bomb. Those are the ones I'm really worried about that Staten Island still has, and it looks like they're about to pounce.
This fight is going to be a possibly rough one. We got a flank coming around on the side from Zephyr. Throws the Pulse Bomb into the heavens. It comes back down and finds nothing. Kaiser's able to get rid of Cammy and evict the Orisa off the point. That is a massive loss for Staten Island. They don't have their tank. They're not able to just sustain on the point. They're going to disengage and get off the objective and give it over to Edgewood.
Seemed like a late rally coming out there from Staten Island, and Edgewood are able to capitalize. They take out the tank, and basically that's a fight gone. Meanwhile, that Pulse Bomb was, he tried to send that to the 5th floor, ended up getting nothing. But now you have Edgewood College catching up to the 78% that Staten Island have. They drop the window, try and buy a little bit of time, and they managed to get a pick
onto the Juno. That is huge for Edgewood.
Gordo with a classic Fire Strike window combo. It warms my heart. You don't see it nowadays with the larger hero pools, but it definitely worked for Edgewood College in that play, as they are now sitting in onto the point. They only have one more fight that they need to win. If they want to take Nepal 2-0, it's going to be on the onus of College of Staten Island to get in onto the point. They're going to have to fight this. They're going to start it with the Orbital Ray. That Juno ult still looking pretty crisp. Going to be met by the Blizzard as Volvic's able to find 2 with the Pharah, and that will be a flip coming through. So once again, right at the death, College of Staten Island is able to stay alive, and this next fight's going to be for all the marbles here on Nepal.
Melly might wish that they have this that beat back. I'm hearing that it was actually an Ajax, and that's tough, especially given how many ults Staten Island put into that fight. But this is going to be the last fight coming off from Edgewood. We have the switch over to the Zarya, and also this, so we're going to see if that makes any difference. I think there's a switch onto the Ashe as well. Melly gets stunned, ends up getting taken down by the Orisa.
The Lucio going down first is going to make it really rough, and now Cammy's able to find another with the spear. And this looks like it could just be wrapped up now. Yeah, Cammy just surging forward on that Orisa, able to get multiple kills. So Cammy really showing up at the end of that fight, and it's going to take us to a map 3.
Yeah, and that's tough. You're trying to re-engage this last fight, and the other team, they know how you're gonna path. So that's tough, to be honest. I think they really wanted the fight before, at the very least, had the beaten to be able to beat in. But I think with the composition that Staten Island were playing, that was going to be their best map as well, and it ended up being what, 99-99. So good luck coming out from Edgewood. Seems like they might be sticking on the Zarya here, might be sticking on the Ashe as well. Maybe want to control some longer sight lines, and that's especially going to help with doing a lot of damage to the Orisa, who can at times seem unkillable. But on the other side, Staten Island also going to bring out the Ashe and possibly the Genji, but looks like it's going to be on the Tracer. So I'm curious to see how each team is going to be able to control space, especially because the Zarya is squishier than the Orisa is.
Yeah, this is a really interesting switch on to the Zarya. I thought that was maybe just for the final fight, and then they would go to something else for round 3. But here on Sankum, it looks like Gordo is going to stick with that Zarya. And Kaiser has already fallen to Zephyr. A nice Tracer play over on the side is going to give the advantage here to College of Staten Island. Now they're just pushing forward. This first fight is over really just before it begins.
That very may well have been a one clip. Zephyr just got, Kaiser just got deleted. That's going to be a really important win for Staten Island. Of course, on this map, you really want to win that first point, especially for the comp that Staten Island's playing as well. This is something with the Orisa, you can just hold point for a long time. The Brig can brawl, and it's something where, honestly, they may have just broken the game, it turns out. Such a powerful comp. Sombra may be getting some revenge for being banned, letting us know that that was not cool. And instead of searching for a win, they're searching for a server.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get those technical difficulties sorted out shortly. Yeah, but it was looking rough there for Edgewood College Eagles, because really, one of the things you want with that Zarya is obviously to get in, get that charge up. But if you're dying quickly in fights, or your team isn't taking those fights, the Zarya is not getting a ton of value because they can't build up that extra charge. They can't get
Mhm.
that ultimate online, and it's really a snowbally hero kind of one way or the other.
Yeah, and Orisa is just a lot quicker than Zarya in the sense that, with the spear spin, and with the gold, they can actually, I think Orisa can just delete squishies so much quicker than Zarya can. And when one of your main sort of win conditions is to get like a wall off, and you have a hero like Orisa that you can't necessarily melt when they get walled off, unless they use their cooldowns wrong, which I don't think is going to happen at this level, it can be really tough to sort of push with the Zarya. Just because I don't think the burst damage is going to be there. So you're going to be sustaining a lot and maybe having a lot of charge. But the question is, would Staten Island reveal themselves enough in order to be able to get picked off by the Zarya? But it looks like we're back. Looks like the windows already dropped, beats drop. This is an all-out ult fight.
Yeah, this is a fight Edgewood College needs to win, as well as College of Staten Island is at 90% and counting, and the ultimates being spent are going to work out. So an expensive fight for the Edgewood College Eagles as we rejoin, but one they knew they had to win, and they are able to come out on top.
Yeah, and I mean, looks like Edgewood definitely switch over to the Tracer. M Star is going to be able to get that pick. I think the Tracer is going to be a better pick just because of the way that M Star is going to be able to control angles and contest angles, especially against Zephyr. And like I said, the Mei, I'm not really sure where the value with that was going to come from, especially from isolating the tank. So I think this is going to be a much better pick. And it looks like M Star already has a pulse bomb.
Yeah, the Tracer's coming head to head once again. M-Star just yeets the Pulse Bomb into the back line, and that is going to be easy for College of Staten Island just to back up a little bit here. So that Tracer ult is off the table. And now we got a Bob going in onto the point as well. So that could turn this fight around. Edgewood College Eagles making sure they don't get in line of sight of that ult. And now they have to contest as they don't want to give the point over for free. And Phobos able to find one in onto Melly. And now that two have gone down, College of Staten Island have flipped the point. They get the kills, and they are going to take Nepal 2-1.
It looks like M Star saw a ghost, but the only ghost they're seeing now is a map that they could have won. They looked so strong on that first map. And it was, I mean, the second map was really tightly contested. And that third map, I think in the end, I'm not really sure what the engagement tools were supposed to be. I think that Staten Island had just really good sustain, especially with what is a very established support duo at the moment, with the Brig, with the Juno. But really good looks coming out from the Eagles. I think that they look really comfortable. The switch between the Ryan and the Zarya was interesting. I think it makes sense for Sanctum, I believe it's called. Um, just because with the Ryan, you can kind of be sitting there with your shield up and not really actually accomplishing anything. But promising look. Definitely like contested map. It was 2-1, and it looked like a 2-1. But I'm curious to see what are the other changes we're going to might see, because we haven't seen M-Star on the Tracer before. It's just basically been playing Mei. So is there anything else that the Eagles have in their pocket?
Yeah, I think with all these heroes in flux due to the new patch as well, I think if there's a time to try something new, maybe get a little bit spicy, this could be it. Not really knowing how some of these new heroes or these new hero changes are going to interact with each other. And we have said it before, Knuckles. Like the control map is really the black sheep of the family. Like it really isn't representative of what you're going to see for the rest of the match.
No, I mean it's something where you even would have I swear you have pro teams that just specialize in COTS sometimes. It really is not representative. That being said, it's important to be able to see the different looks that teams can pull out, and also are they adapting well in the mid fight? Where are they taking their fights? There's some things that you can kind of glean into. How's the ult usage? This kind of stuff. I definitely thought that the windows were a lot stronger. I think that they were used to either, take Staten Island by surprise or to force them to rotate, which can be good, sort of, to burn time. So still, I mean, saw some really good things, but like you said, Koth is a black sheep, and we have a full series ahead of us.
Yeah, and it's going to be really intriguing to see what Edward College Eagles want to take, what changes they want to make. But when we've seen them be successful in the past, it's with that May, it's with the Lucio on the back line with the BAP. I mean, Melly and Maddie, I love that back line because they're really good. Melly's a really good Lucio player. We've seen Celestia Maddie pop off like multiple times on the BAP as well. But I have said it, and I know I said it last week. This team will go as far as Kaiser and M-Star Master can carry them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, we saw the Ash coming out. I don't know if I've seen Kaiser play the Ash before. I think Ash is in a pretty good spot right now. Despite the Hanzo changes, I don't know if we're still going to see a whole lot of Hanzo. I just think that with the way that teams are grouped with the Juno and with the Brig, Ash's Dynamite, there really is just nothing else like it that a DPS can use. I mean, even the Disruptor shot coming out from Sojourn can be kited a little bit more easily. But so you're not really going to get the same amount of value in terms of cooldowns. But yeah, I mean Kaiser. I mean, I thought actually M-Star looked good on the Tracer. Like I know we pointed out that one, the pulse just yeet. However, they otherwise look good. It seemed like they were keeping Zephyr in check, which is going to be really important, especially for their backline. Because if Melly wants to go forward with Gordo, then that means that M-Star is going to have to be keeping Zephyr in check, assuming that they keep playing the Tracer.
Yeah, that's a really interesting kind of way to look at it as well. It's like just for the Edgewood College Eagles, like who's going forward, who's staying back, and that synergy throughout the whole team as well. As we are going to be going into our second map of the match, we'll see what Edgewood College Eagles want to bring out here on Kings Row. So we got the classic flavor. We got Kings Row. We know how this is going to work. So this is a map where May can be really strong. Obviously, Gordo can maybe go back to the Rhine if they want. So definitely some picks that are in their wheelhouse going into Kings Row.
Oh, we got Scrims Row, and it looks like Edgewood College, speaking of picks, might just be going for maybe a little bit more of a pick-based composition. I don't think they're going to stay on the Widowmaker. They'll probably switch over to the May, which means, yeah, it's going to be more of like a traditional rush with the Sojourn, which is interesting, not the Cassidy. I think Cassidy is actually is a decent place right now, so a little bit of an interesting switch, maybe just for the extra mobility so they don't get caught out. Again, that Orisa, it's really difficult to overstate how quickly, as a squishy, Orisa can just run you down and kill you, and so maybe they're worried about that with the with the cast. Although they're hoping this Sojourn pick is cash, so who knows? Maybe they're seeing some, maybe they're seeing in the picture or something.
I mean, I really want to see the Sojourn as well. I think it'll be really interesting to see, obviously some fresh changes for that Sojourn as we were talking in the opening. As Gordo doing a really good job here of getting forward with that Rhine comp. We've talked about it. You want to get onto the point and doing a good job of using that aggression to get forward and take some of this wheel estate early. And now they're in onto the point. They already have 2 ticks captured. That means College Staten Island is going to have to come back in and recontest this. And it looks like, at least as of yet, they're just not able to stand up to the damage being pumped in onto the point. Phobic's now able to find one on the Ash. They get rid of the Rhine, and that is going to be a big wrench in the gears for Edgewood College Eagles. They're able to trade one back, get rid of the Farah, but that's going to be a little bit too little too late. They're going to disengage here and get out of this fight.
It really seemed like there was a moment where the Orisa could go down. Unfortunately, it didn't end up happening. That being said, of course, I was going to say Kaiser, building up to that ult, unfortunately goes down towards the end of the fight. I mean, Edgewood, really good first start, and it seemed like Staten Island was a little hesitant to actually touch the point, but that's actually their game plan. A lot of the, I think with the Juno, again, you can heal at distance. They have the Pharah, they have the Ash. They're perfectly comfortable just having the Orisa on point. So we're going to see if Edgewood's maybe going to adjust their approach here, but it looks like, actually, no, they're just going to jump onto point.
And that's going to be an early orbital ray coming out from the Juno as well. Bioactive is able to get in there and get 1 and now 2. And this is going to be a quick fight, and Edgewood College Eagles just couldn't stand up to the extra damage that Juno ult's dishing out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things as well. If you look at the Brig only has like 52% ult, which meant the majority of the healing was going through the Juno. And also with the amount of damage that the Orisa was taking, like that's why you see such an early ult. This is one of the advantages of just sort of like stacking healing on one hero. Zarya is going to be coming out here though, so we're going to see if, again, this is going to lead to a shift. I mean, it looks like the window's coming out early, and for the moment, I think Cat and Staten Island are going to kite this.
Maddie throwing down that amplification matrix early here. Trades coming through, but Edgewood College Eagles are getting the better of it. They have the numbers advantage on getting in onto the point. They have the Blizzard freezing up Bob, making sure they don't go down. Bob with 1 HP is able to get rid of the May, but Gordon was still in onto the point. They finally fall down. That was so close to going Edgewood's way. If they had just got rid of the Bob, I almost feel like that would have been just so much better for them.
Well, not only that, but the Pharah actually just went sicko mode there, doing so much work on the back line. But already we have a quick engage coming off from Edgewood College again, while on the high ground. Looks like we might have a beat here. All right, gonna be dropped. No Ajax here, and Staten Island might have to kite this.
Yeah, this is going to look rough for them now. They've already lost 2 members, so they're just dying on point. If they can't get out, that is going to be the payload unlocked for Edgewood College Eagles. They'll be going on to the second phase of the map here in Kings Row.
I mean, one of the things about the Eagles, which I think is so funny, and what makes them fun to cast, is that they are just able to get so many fights out. And in part, it's because of the Lucio. I don't think that Staten Island were really ready for another fight there. And especially, I think they over-engage on the Lucio, who manages to get the beat off. And in the end, Staten Island gets punished, Edgewood gets the point, and at the moment, Gordo is very close to that Graviton Surge.
And charged up as well, so they'll be building up that ultimate in the blink of an eye. M-Star Master's going to throw that Maywall early just so that Edgewood College Eagles can stay safe into this fight. Kaiser's going to get the opening pick here. That could be absolutely massive. Now Gordo seeing who they want to lock up in that Graviton Surge. Not really wanting to spend that ultimate just yet. Holding on to it, Hands of Steel. Just wants to make sure they use it at the exact right time. And now that Juno ult is going to come out on the other side from Bioactive, and that is going to be with the Terror Surge. The Orisa come calling, getting 3 kills here, and that's College of Staten Island turning this around.
Well, I mean, that is, I mean, the fight is still going on. It looks like the Orisa's still doing work, but with the Orisa down, they're going to be able to push forward. Although Juno manages to get the pick on the Kaiser, I think that's going to put the nail in the coffin of this fight. You know, Gordo didn't really see it a good opportunity to drop the grab, but manages to get a pick on the Juno. This fight is the never-ending fight, and it turns out that Edgewood is going to be able to turn it in their favor. Meanwhile, short of a spear spin, I don't know if Staten Island are going to have any tools to deal with this grab.
I mean, luckily, I guess if you're a Cammy, you can just walk out of that with a Fortify. But the rest of College of Staten Island might not be so lucky as we come into this fight here. That could decide point B. Now the Pharah getting so very low, and the Graviton Surge is going to come out. Immortality Field is going to keep Gordo on the feet, doing a ton of damage, and Kaiser is able to find the overclock through and able to get one as they delete Rip SR on that Brig. And now Celestia Maddie is back into the action and on the correct side of the kill feed, getting one, finishing off the Orisa. So the staggers are coming through. They're getting cleaned up by Edgewood College Eagles, and they're going to move on to the third phase of the map here and get into the Foundry.
We saw a rare defensive barrage coming out, trying to get the pick on the Gordo. Gordo manages to kite it. Now they're going to switch onto the Mei, so we're going to have some Mei v Mei violence. It's about to get very chilly in here, but first, got to send out Bob. It's going to be, you know, Staten Island definitely want to control these angles, want to make sure that they have the high ground. The Kaiser is now contesting, and it looks like he's kind of locked in the corner there. That's going to be the Dynamite coming out, but Cammy's looking strong, looking for a chance for that ult, and with the Juno ult, Edgewood College is going to have to be careful.
Juno ult is now been spent, so that means Melee's going to have to throw down the sound barrier, and there's just so much damage going through, it's not even going to save the Lucio. They go down to the Terror Surge inside the Orbital Ray, and now the cleanup's coming through for College of Staten Island. They're going to finally stabilize after some good momentum from Edgewood College.
I mean, I've heard of Space Jam, but that Orbital Ray Terror Surge combination is just apocalyptic, the amount of damage that you can do. And it's something that makes so much sense because the fights are going to be so concentrated with how these team comps work. But the thing that we're looking for now is absolutely that Blizzard from M-Star in addition to the window. They're probably going to try and combo those up to make sure that they can get enough damage in order to take out Cammy. But Cammy manages to send M-Star into the Forge, into the hottest, well, I was going to say into the drink. That doesn't really work out so well. Whatever. Rally comes out from Staten Island, try and stabilize around this corner here. However, the grab Gordo's looking for, he's going to drop it right now. What's going to be a wall coming out from Staten Island. And is Kaiser going to be able to follow up? No, but Gordo is, with the help of Melee, showing up in the kill feed with those assists, the speed coming in clutch.
As this map goes on, like Gordo's play with the Zarya is basically mirroring the Zarya's play themselves, really growing into this map. And as the further they go, it seems the stronger this Zarya is getting, and that is going to be the payload getting over the finish line. Round one is now complete, so that means that Edgewood College Eagles are going to complete King's Row, and they still have some time remaining, just 38 seconds. But you can't ask for more. Like, you got to get all the way to the end, and the Eagles were able to do it, and that is a really good push. You know, obviously a little shaky on the start, but as that map went on, they really were able to pick up the pace.
I mean, what a scrappy kind of offense that was. And Edgewood really making it work when it happened. I feel, you know, the concern that I had for the Zarya on Nepal was Zarya just kind of getting blown up. But those fights were dragged out for so long, and especially with Cammy on the Orisa, usually being the first one to be taken down, able to get a lot of value there, especially that last grab. You know, despite the wall coming up, okay, we have a speed boost. So really great job coming out there from Edgewood. I thought Kaiser had a really good map as well. Able to get those picks. You know, we were kind of thinking about, you know, how much value is a Sojourn going to be able to get, and that was something that I feel that Edgewood really had over Staten Island. You know, I feel like those sort of mid-range poke phase picks, Kaiser was able to provide them, and that's going to be a huge part of why Edgewood wins if they're able to pull out this map.
For sure, and I thought they did a really good job as well marking Changyan at Pharah, making sure that Pharah wasn't getting a ton of value with the comp that they're running. And now it is going to be College of Staten Island on the attack, as we normally see, starting off with the attempt at the cheeky Widow pick, nothing doing there, so that is going to be a change right away. And that means that we have Both these teams just rotating around the side here. Chang'an just trying to dump in some extra rockets at range, seeing if they can get lucky. Nothing happening just yet. Edgewood College is just happy to rotate around this hotel and wait out this fight.
I mean, they're playing with the BAP Juno, which I don't know if I've seen before, but in a way, with the new BAP, you can say that, Staten Island have 3 DPS now, and they're showing it as well. I think that was a spear on a Celestial Maddie that the BAP is able to follow up on, and especially when you consider that, Juno can just kind of heal. I mean, it is a very creative look. It's a look I've never seen from Staten Island, but damn, did it work.
It really worked out there, and I mean, losing the Baptiste early is just such a shot in the foot. I mean, that BAP does so much healing. It's almost a foregone conclusion once the BAP goes down that you're not going to win that fight.
Yeah, and I mean, on the plus side for Edgewood, I mean, that was such a quick fight. You're not really going to have any ults coming out. Although, I mean, Cammy is looking to be pretty close to that Terror Surge. I mean, they're doing so much, and of course, that's going to be another pick. Coming out for Staten Island against Kaiser, which means Edgewood's going to have to give up more space, which is really unideal, especially with this map. You want a little bit longer sight lines. So that's just going to be another reset for Edgewood.
Yeah, and Staten Island just stepping on the gas right now, already capping point A onto point B, and with a decent amount of time left in the clock, to say the least. This is something that can really start snowballing here if Edgewood's not careful.
Yeah, and of course, I'm once again worried about the Orbital Strike Terra Surge combination. I'm not really sure, short of beat, I'm not sure what Edgewood can do against it. I know they're definitely going to try and Blizzard it. With the Blizzard up, that's going to be probably their best defensive tool in addition to their best offensive tool. And it looks like they managed to isolate Cammy, but Cammy's just going to charge forward. And I mean, that is just an emphatic fight win coming out from Staten Island. And also efficient as well. That's only, what, 2 ults coming out from them? That's a clean fight.
Yeah, just the Amp Matrix and the Terra Surge. They didn't really have to spend anything else. M-Star Master did try to get in there with the Blizzard, but to no avail this time around. And Edgewood seeing if they want to re-engage it for one more fight before point B is taken. But somebody's going to have to touch right now, and it looks like nobody's going to be able to make it. And now an absolutely massive time bank for College of Staten Island as they move into point C.
Well, and it looks like Cammy might have overextended a little bit. Celestial Maddie with the pick onto Farah. Edgewood absolutely want to hold this corner, and hold this corner they will. They're finally able to stop the bleeding, which is exactly what they needed, given how, I mean, basically Staten Island got to 3rd point with 2 fight wins. And so, switch over to the Orisa, so hopefully means that Gordo is going to be able to be a little bit more proactive in the neutral, be able to hold space a little bit more aggressively. But Staten Island has some ults coming out, and it looks like they're going to pop one.
Well, speaking of ults being popped, Kaiser's going to throw down that overclock and get one early. They're going to punish the Juno for throwing down that orbital ray. Lobic's able to trade one back here and take down Melly. But Edgewood College is fighting this for as long as they possibly can. Gordo falls, and with the tank gone, that is going to be a bit of a problem. The rest of Edgewood College is trying to back up or die on the point, and that is going to be M-Star Master going down, and that means the College of Staten Island is going to get this last corner and come into the home stretch.
Yeah, and it looks like, so we're going to see a switch over to the Ana, maybe going to look for a choice nade. Staten Island don't have any way to deal with that aside from the Immortality Field. However, they're going to have 4 ults for this final push, which means that it's going to be on Edgewood to come up with some magic.
They're going to need a pick in the neutral, but with 2 coming out from the ults as 2 fall, and now that is 3, so this fight looks like it is just done and dusted. I mean, Kaiser is able to get rid of the Pharah, but that is going to be just a drop in the bucket here. Point C capped. That is going to be extra innings here on Kings Row with a decided advantage in the time banks going to College of Staten Island.
And this is, I mean, to contrast this from the Eagles' attack, I think this really highlights what I was talking about like when I was talking about the Zarya, which is that, Edgewood is playing this comp that wants to extend fights. I mean, they definitely, I mean, they do more damage over time. The Sojourn's going to need time to get picks. They're not going to get picks on every single railgun. And College of Staten Island just went balls to the wall offense and damage. I mean, this is a comp that, between the headshots coming out from the Ashe, rockets from the Pharah, the laser beam from the BAP, and, the spear from the Orisa. I mean, College of Staten Island were able to play their game the entire time, and Edgewood really struggled to slow them down, which would have been more beneficial to what they were trying to do. And so really curious to see what adjustments are going to come out from Edgewood. We saw Gordo switch over to the Orisa, which I don't think I've seen them play before. And now it seems like they might be hovering over the Diva, although you can never trust what you see in the spawn.
No, Knuckles, we've casted for long enough knowing that we cannot be baited in Spawn. I will say it now. It's going to happen to me about another million times before I'm done with this. But this is going to be a really interesting push for our Edgewood College Eagles. I mean, something we've seen in the past with the Eagles win or lose is a lot of times they do get the first pick in the fight, but at least in the last go around, College of Staten Island was doing a really good job getting that first elimination.
I mean, this is the effort we ball comp coming out from Edgewood College. They're building for that Nano Blade, baby. That is some ethical Overwatch right now, but also the Diva able to take the high ground, which is, of course, the first thing they do. Manage to isolate the Mei, who's forced to use the wall defensively. Edgewood College says, no, you're not going to take this high ground. We're going to take it away from you. However, it looks like Gordo might have overextended. His healers weren't behind them. And so that's going to be a reset coming out from Edgewood. However, that is a completely different look. Instead of having Staten Island meet them on the point, they're meeting them on the high ground.
Yeah, it was a really interesting rotation. We've seen that before on this map with, either a Diva or even a Doomfist on the attack. That is the favorite rotation, but unfortunately a couple members of Edgewood got caught. They get taken down with only 10 seconds go, so that means this is going to be an uneven fight no matter how it starts. Somebody for Edgewood College is going to have to touch the point here in the next couple seconds if they want to proc overtime, and they are able to do just that, although Gordo's already lost their mech and now their life. So unfortunately with those couple players getting staggered late on close to the end, it just ensured that there was never going to be another fair fight in that attack for the Edgewood College Eagles.
I mean, that being said, I think they made the right decision because, especially on their first point attack, what one of the differences was is that College of Staten Island were capable of keeping Cammy up for so long. Edgewood said, "We're not going to mess around with this. We're not going to let them just stall on point. We're going to flush them out." Now, it didn't exactly go to plan. However, I think the idea was right. And now of course they're staring down a 4-minute time bank, but first point holds are completely possible on Kings Row, and especially if they win, 2 fights, maybe 3 fights, we might see changes come out from College of Staten Island, which might take them off where they're comfortable.
Well, you gotta hope for that. I mean, if Edgewood College Eagles are able to hold on 4 minutes in the time bank and then just one tick needed for College of Staten Island to take the map, it would really be one of the holds of all time if the Eagles are able to pull it off.
Yeah, they're going back to the tried and true Ryan. However, they're also going to have the Brig, which is really interesting. We're going to see, how this is going to help Gordo in the matchup against the Orisa. And also I'm really curious. Also, they're switching over to the cast, which we was talking about earlier. Maybe now the cast will be cash. We're gonna find out. But looks like College of Staten Island is gonna stay on this aggressive DPS comp. So the question is Edgewood gonna be able to sort of isolate them and maybe take away their angles? Although they're gonna stay on the Widow now, which is gonna be a complete question mark coming out from Edgewood. But we're gonna see if they're gonna actually be able to slow them down, maybe isolate the front line, get some picks, see if they can hold this point.
Yeah, this Widowmaker pick almost really says that they feel confident that one way or another they're going to be able to get this one in. But Edgewood College right now is able to go forward. Unfortunately, Kaiser was left open in the backline, and that is going to be a pick from Phobic. And now with Changyan getting another one on the Pharah, this is over in the blink of an eye, and that is going to be College of Staten Island taking another map here as they go up 2-0.
Turns out the cast was just Cole's cash, and they couldn't use that at most grocery stores. Certainly not the grocery store in Staten Island. That is a confident win coming out from Staten Island, looking comfortable on a couple different picks. But I mean, the other thing is that I thought that the Rhine switch was just really interesting because unfortunately with the comp that they were playing, even Staten Island were playing, even on the first point, like again, it's just so much damage with so much range, and the question was how is Gordo meaningfully going to be able to close that distance? And so ends up being, they weren't able to capture the first point. Staten Island's able to get that, but again, I mean, this is a back and forth map. I think both teams are actually throwing punches. They're looking confident, but they're also showing very different looks, which is I think really interesting. One of the things I love about the Eagles is how much personality the team has, and they always show with their hero picks and how they play it, the style that they play. And so, being able to see them kind of go toe for toe with Staten Island is really promising.
And one thing that we're going to have to see going forward is how the Edgewood College Eagles are going to negotiate those rotations that they have, because I feel like that's one big Achilles heel with any Reinhardt composition is the minute you have to go from point A to point B, especially if you're going up against something like an Orisa composition, you're going to be taking a ton of poke damage. And it becomes so dangerous just to make rotations. Like we could even see it just on the first point, just getting around that statue, how much damage they were taking. And that is something that, they're really gonna have to mitigate going forward. I mean, just not in this match, but just in general if they're gonna keep playing that Reinhardt.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that they just ended up giving up the long sight lines that didn't even want to hold statue. They just went hotel, but they didn't even rotate, around to the right side, maybe through hotel. But Kings Row at the very least, they brought out the Reinhardt, and you and I love some ethical Overwatch. Always really
Absolutely.
happy to see that. But
Absolutely.
I think the next map we have is going to be a little bit more open ended. So who knows? We might see a little bit more of the Zarya.
Yeah, we are going to be getting, Runesapi for our 3rd map here, and we have seen this in the past as well with the Eagles. They do like playing Runesapi, they've played it a bunch. And one thing we'll see in a couple seconds here, if it holds to be true, Gordo does like playing the Mauga here sometimes.
Yeah, and especially with the Maga changes. I mean, Mago got a little bit of a buff, so who knows? I mean, might be something that will be a bit of a trump card. I mean, I know it's just like the burning damage, but if Kaiser decides to play the Ash, it's still going to be a lot of damage that the Mago's going to be able to put out. And we know that they like to play fast here. I mean, with the Mago comp, we know Gordo loves to go in. I mean, that's how you play. I mean, you'd just be curious to see, is MStar going to stay on the Mei? Maybe they're going to do the Venture, maybe Tracer. It looks like it's going to be the Mei starting out, but we are going to see possibly a Juno coming out from Celestial Maddie.
Yeah, that, Judo, I think, would synergize really well with Mauga, like you said, really wanting to get in with that tank and going in and getting right in the mix. So that's definitely one way you can get there quicker with that Juno speed ring.
Yeah, and so we're going to be going out of, Staten Island is going to be sticking with basically their bread and butter. The cast is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to make any more cast jokes, so we're all done with that. I'm all cashed out of those. We're all set.
That
But we're going to see if that's going to make a difference. Sorry. uh, but the Maga, obviously has a lot of health, but at the same time can be a little bit of an ult battery. So maybe the cast is going to be able to get a lot of value here. That's going to be a spear going out onto the Mei, and Edgewood looks like they're able to get to their spot first.
Yeah, going on this rotation, Kaiser's able to find an early pick here onto the Brig, and that is going to be absolutely massive to allow for the rest of the Eagles to push forward. Now with Celestial Maddie getting on the board, this is going to be a quick fight win for the Eagles. They're going to get first possession of this bot and really playing that comp to a T.
Yeah, and you saw that they kind of got that back area, and I apologize, I don't know what the technical term for that back area is, but that's exactly where they wanted to be, and of course it scared Staten Island so much that they managed they're going to switch over to the Bastion. Never mind, keeping it the Farah cast, just switching the people playing the Farah cast, which I have to say, I have not seen in many games that I've casted, so this actually might be a first. However, great first map coming out from Edgewood, and Kaiser here on the cast, definitely going to be able to keep the Farah in check, and I'm also confident that they're going to be able to keep the cast in check as well.
Yeah, Chonyan and Phobic really seem to have overlapping hero pools right now, to say the least. But now, with Bioactive getting a first pick here onto Melly, that is going to be Eagles backing up a bit, not wanting to take extra damage, but now with Gordo falling to the floor, that is going to be College Staten Island taking control of the spot and getting their own push started. 54 meters, not a bad first push for Edgewood College.
And I think that was going to be a tougher fight for Edgewood anyways. I think in the longer sight lines, they're going to have a little bit more of a difficult time. With the Mei, with the Maga, they don't really have as many tools to do as much damage over a long space. So if they're able to re-engage here quick enough, they might be able to get a fight. It looks like they're going to hold it around this corner, but they're able to get there, and I think they're going to be able to take the fight that they want from here.
Gordo, as always, full of bravery, getting into the fight early on here. Phobic's able to find one. That is going to be a trade 4v4 Overwatch incoming, as we have the orbital ray coming out, and that, like it does most times, is going to turn the fight on the head. I mean, the Juno nerfs that have come through in the last day or two have been to the Medi Blaster, not to that orbital ray, which is still a massively strong ultimate.
Yeah, maybe even Blizzard doesn't have enough power to nerf a Space Ray. It is still easily one of the most powerful ults in the game. Actually, probably with Rally as well. Of course, Staten Island rocking both those heroes, but Edgewood coming up on 5 ults. However, Staten Island going for a sneaky play, able to get Kaiser. However, the Pharah gets punished.
Yeah, the Pharah goes down. Obviously, that barrage leaves the Pharah in such a vulnerable spot, and now the Deadeye is out from Phobic, and that is going to clean the life of Celestial Maddie. As right now, Bioactive just playing off on the side is able to keep Cammy up. And in this fight, Gorda goes down to the Spear, and with M-Star Master falling, that's going to be another fight win for College of Staten Island, who are starting to pick up some steam.
I think the really big turning point for that fight was actually the Deadeye that came out. Managed to get a pick. Edgewood had forced to overextend in order to maybe get some value. They still have 5 ults though. They still have the Curie Rush, and they still have the Blizzard and the Cage as well. I think they might combine the Cage and Kaiser's ult and try and get a pick early on.
They got Melly on that. Bleak World has the rush online here. The Cage is out, the Blizzard is out. This is going to be the Eagles' fight to win. And they are, in fact, winning it, able to get 2 picks here before Cammy trades 1 back. But that is just going to be the death knell of the Orisa as they go down to the kunais of Melly. So the flip has come through, and Edgewood College back in control.
Yeah, and I think Edgewood really has the advantage here, especially with the Curie Rush. I don't really know if Staten Island are going to have a way to deal with that unless they decide to use the Speed Ring in order to get out of there. But I think Edgewood should have a really proactive fight here. I don't think they should sit back and just sort of let Staten Island take the angles that they want to take, especially because they will be able to engage with all the healing and damage that comes from this.
And now Kaiser is going to open up their account in this fight with a pick onto the Brig as Allison goes down, but the clapback is coming down from College of Staten Island as they're able to get multiple picks. Phobic looking really good on this Cassidy right now, and the Eagles just don't have an answer for it.
I mean, that fight did not go how I thought it was going to go. I'm curious where M-Star ended up using their Ice Block because it wasn't available for the Terra Surge. Staten Island, though, looking confident, 104 meters, and I was about to say short of a pick, which M-Star is able to provide. It looks like they might need to play a little bit passively here. However, that's going to be 2 ults coming up for Staten.
Yeah, unfortunately tried to wall off the Cassie, but instead just elevated them in onto the air. And that Deadeye is going to build up so fast in the orbital ray. So that is a fight win for College of Staten Island. And they are getting close to the end of the map now. And with Kaiser going down to Cammy, that is going to be devastating. Really, Edgewood College has to win this next fight if they want to stay alive in this map.
And they do have the orbital ray. Of course, this is one of the strongest ults in the game. Edgewood College going to be looking for an opportunity to use it. Looks like they try to get sneaky with the barrage, but able to take down the Pharah. Of course, switch from Kaiser coming out onto the Ashe, a little bit more damage, and Edgewood is going to stabilize just at the last moment.
Yeah, they are going to take this fight, and that is a good thing too. A really important first pick as well, as Melly was able to finish off the Pharah. But already College of Staten Island trying to scrap out this fight. Luckily, Edgewood College had enough players on the payload, so they are going to reassess their situation right now as they're getting back to the neutral point of the map.
I mean, Staten Island just hung around and managed to get 2 picks. That's pretty huge. It means Edgewood won't be able to play as aggressively as they might want. However, they do have the May ult, which would be good in slowing down College of Staten Island, but looks like they're going to be getting out of there. Suzu dropped, and now they got to worry about the Terra Surge.
Terra Surge in a small room can be a recipe for disaster. This time the disaster is going to befall Cammy. They go down to the miniguns of Gordo, and Gordo will stay alive on this bot. Edgewood College Eagle looking to see if they can translate that tank kill into a fight win. At the very least, they are holding on to the objective. However, that is going to be Bioactive taking down their opposite number in Celestial Maddie. And now Gordo has that cage fight online, but they don't want to use it quite yet down that Juno.
I mean, it feels like they made a deal, cut a deal with the devil to do this map, because every time they win a fight, someone from Edgewood ends up getting picked, and they have 4 ults. But we're gonna see if this is gonna be able to actually change the fight. Of course, cage fight coming down is gonna be a big deal, and see if Gordo is able to get any value. And it looks like the cast is gonna go down, but it's gonna be the Blizzard from M-Star that is actually gonna cause them to stabilize. Of course, I say that, and a giant space laser goes down onto the field, and that's gonna be another pick for Staten Island. However, I think Edgewood is finally going to. Okay, that Cammy gets another pick. I mean, again, this just seems to be Edgewood's curse, where they can't win a clean fight, and that is what's making it so difficult to make some meaningful progress.
Yeah, unfortunately, once again, they're just one pick away from taking these fights. If they were able to get rid of Cammy, that would have been it. But now that is College of Staten Island back in control, and now we are under 2 minutes on the clock, and Edgewood still have a long way to take this bot. So this is a problem we've seen with Push if you're not able to get out to the lead early, is it's so hard to string fight wins together later on in the map.
Already a lot of pressure. They use the Suzu. They might have to use the Suzu, the Curie Rush as well in order to stabilize. Of course, Cammy has that Terror Surge and is going to run in and use it, as we know they love to. And that is going to be a sweep coming out from Staten Island. Just a clean pick. Clean picks coming out from the DPS using the forced movement of the Terror Surge to get Edgewood College exactly where they want. In order to get those picks, Gordo now coming out with the Zarya, and once again, they have the Orbital Ray. Will they be able to save themselves from Doom one more time?
Once again, we got the Farah Chang'an going in on the flank, throws down the barrage at point blank range and is able to finish off Gordo. Kaiser luckily able to trade that back and get rid of the Farah, and now with Melly getting rid of Cammy, this is going to be the Eagles pushing forward on the back of that Orbital Ray. Phobic finds one, but that's nothing to write home about. And from here on out, the Eagles have to be perfect.
I mean, that was like watching Jaws, watching the Pharah sneak. You know, we knew they were going to use the ult. Thankfully, Kaiser able to get the pick, and we have both DPS ults. However, it looks like Staten Island is going to have a quick engage.
M-Star throwing down that Blizzard to try and catch him off guard, and they're able to find one. Gets rid of Bioactive. That is absolutely huge. Unfortunately, the Juno was able to throw out their ultimate before they go. Phobic finds one with the Deadeye and only 10 seconds remaining on the clock. We are on the dregs of the time bank now. Gordo staying alive in onto the point, and Celestia Maddie's able to find two. Even though Kaiser goes down, the Juno trying with everything they have to keep them alive into this fight, gets the casting low, and Gordo's able to finish them off before they go down, but Edgewood College might just not have enough people left in onto the point, and with Cammy throwing down another Terror Surge, that is going to be what finally seals the deal. M-Star Maddie just trying to get back in onto the pointer. Sorry, M-Star Master trying to get back in onto the point, overtime burning away, and that is going to do it. College of Staten Island is going to take Runasapi and take this match 3-0.
Celestial Fraggy trying to put in the numbers, you know, try to swing that fight. Unfortunately, little too late. Cammy showing out with a phenomenal match. I mean, looked so confident on that Orisa. Seemingly impossible to kill and could kill at will. Those Terror Surges are the things of nightmares. I mean, really good performance from Staten Island. You know, Edgewood, we saw them playing the Malga comp again. With the Curie, which is interesting, you know, we haven't seen a lot of that. I'm not sure how much value the Curie rush ended up giving. Unfortunately, it seemed like Edgewood, with each progressive match, seemed to be just a little bit less competitive with Staten Island. I think Staten Island were able to play the game how they wanted to. And that switch onto the cast for Runasapi was incredible. They got so much value off that. The Pharah was really good, and I thought Kaiser did a really good job pressuring the Pharah, but when you have Cammy, like the Demon Bull, running at you, there's really not much you can do.
I mean, really, just showing why Orisa is like the meta tank right now more than anybody else. Like being able to rotate those cooldowns, and especially if you're getting decent healing like Cammy was, that Orisa can just be so hard to bring down and tame. It's really not something really anyone can quite figure out yet. Like that's why Orisa is just so strong in the meta, and chances are going forward we are going to continue to see that. Speaking of looking forward, we are going to be back next week. Week 5 will be the Edgewood College Eagles going up against the Rochester Institute of Technology. So before we go, Knuckles, any thoughts on what you'd like to see coming up next week?
I mean, they'll have another week to sort of adjust to the meta, which I think will do. I think will be really good. You know, I think Gordo can bring out the horse if necessary. You know, I don't. You know, I think horse is. And if Orisa ends up being meta, I mean, unfortunately, it's not. It's a really difficult hero to play around, especially because they like to play sort of frontline heavy comps. So we'll see. I mean, we saw a lot of different looks. We saw Celestial Maddie looking good on the Juno, so maybe we'll see more of the Juno next week. But I mean, I think just keep grinding up the heroes. There's so much quality there. And maybe try and find just like a way to execute the meta in a way that still stays true to their playstyle, still stays true to their strengths, while also able to contest in different ways against other teams.
For sure. And so that will be next week, October the 24th. We will be seeing the Eagles go up against the Rochester Institute of Technology. However, for this week, that is going to do it. For Knuckles, I am Newbie. Thanks for hanging out with us a bit. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Aegis, running the prod tonight. A really good job there. I know it's a tough one sometimes, but we got it done, and we look forward to seeing you back next week. Thanks for watching.